If you've been around us at United Way, and you certainly get the sense today what we're talking about. When somebody says, well, what are you guys are about these days, it's very easy to say child well-being. And for us, that is a starting point. That is a real starting point for the kind of change that we want. And it is about making sure that children have the resources, opportunities, and social supports to reach their full potential. And when we started talking about this with our board of directors, there was a lot of hesitancy. There was a lot of question marks. And as any good board would do, they made us do some research. They made us look at what our stakeholders were interested in and what they were doing. And there was also a lot of questions about, well, what does this really mean? Yes, we're on board with that. Yes, we believe that the status of children is a sign of the status of our whole region. But can you tell us what that means in numbers? Really, quantify that. How are the children? And so we went from this statement in general to really talking about how we would know it, how we could measure child well-being. And very quickly developed a list of indicators, more than 100, that people locally were using, people nationally were using. We went through everything that's in Kids Count. We went through all kinds of stuff that's in public health. We went through tons of research, came up with a list of 100 indicators, and of course said, well, you can't do that. I don't know how many of you keep your eye on 100 different things at one time, but our quest for multitasking is not quite that strong. We went out to the community. We talked to them about different indicators. We came up with a list of 26. We asked people to align to those 26 and talk about which ones either went together and were duplicative, which ones were most important, and then we added this additional layer. Is it available, not just at a state level or a county level, but can it tell us data about the status of neighborhoods? And that brought us down to this list of 14. We wanted to make sure that it reiterated the fact that issues are interconnected and that children don't exist in a vacuum. Show of hands, you have kids? Know a kid? Okay, making sure. Anybody know a kid who's ever gotten dressed by themselves since birth? Right. My kids yesterday, one of them tried to say, yes, we could make it on our own. I said, go out and try it, see how long it lasts. He didn't even get off the couch, that particular one. He said, so call their bluff every day. They need families. And not only do they need families, they live in communities. We need those other folks, both from the basic functioning and the story I tell about the bus driver on our very first day of school in a new public school setting, riding the school bus. We're outside at 6:55 in the morning. We get a text from the school system saying, oops, your bus is delayed because your bus driver's sick. Here is this person, not related to me or my kids, who I'm dependent on. Their status matters, right? How she's doing matters. The amount of sick leave, benefits, all that kind of stuff matters, even in the lives of all of our children. So you guys are no stranger to this, and there's more information in the back if you want to get the details behind this journey. But picking indicators around children, family, and community. And all together, we layered these different issues. We looked at the current status, and what is wonderful about this, and also troubling, is that we were able to put together a single score. What is that status? And be able to have a single talking point about child well-being that says, how are the children? Our score for the region is 58.9, and that looks at each of those different issues, where we are compared to each other, where we are compared to the nation, and says, look, we could be doing a lot better. But the other thing we found was not just that our score is not where we want it to be, but we found really quickly when we illustrated this, when we visualized the data, when it went from 40% of the kids are reading well, only 40% of them, can you show me where that is? When you say, look, there's so many different families that are not doing well financially, show me where that is. That we really quickly saw that there's a big disparity in our region. That there's not just a few differences, but there are stark differences between these different areas. And that's displayed in the green and the red and all these colors in between. The red are those areas that have the lowest child well-being. And the green are the ones that have the highest child well-being. In those areas, some of their scores are as high as 87 and 89. In the red areas, the scores are as low as 17 and 27. So until we close that kind of gap, we can't say our region is thriving. And so that's our quest, to look at this, to make a difference in this gap, and then to talk about how we change the conditions for a huge set of kids. When you start saying their potential matters for our whole region, I need to know how many kids we're talking about. Are we talking about 1,000? Are we talking about 20? And when I said to somebody, this is not a small issue. This is an issue that is the size of colleges. And you realize, oh wait, this is not the size of colleges, because I went to a big state school. There were 30,000 students there when I was there. And this is more than 10 times that, right? 10 times, 12 times the number of UGAs, of students who we need to be concerned about. They live in these red and orange areas. So that's the 500,000 kids. And we want to make sure we change the condition of their lives, the families, and the communities around them. So part of this journey is not just saying, hey, can we move the big picture, but how do we connect that to what we're doing day to day? So we started on this journey from having the scores to looking at what programs needed to measure, to look at the changes that we needed to have day to day. We started looking at evidence and best practices. We've done the affinity group workshops. For us, that's organizations that have something in common and affinity. It may not be the exact same service, but maybe you're serving similar populations. We did those conversations. We looked at and asked people right away, what do you measure already? Again, our starting point is where you are. We assume you have a lot of expertise. So I don't have to go looking all over the universe. Start here. Start by asking our current partners, and that's what we did. We then went into some more detail, and then what you see today is one of these measurement affinity groups. We met in June and talked a lot about co-creating a new framework. What could those new measures be? We spent a lot of time with people who United Way funds, but also folks we don't fund. It's so important for us that this has real resonance across the community, because we know child well-being is not just one person's issue to solve. It takes all of us. And we are happy to have you here and folks who were here before to continue on this discussion. And one of the things that we covered in a really quick way in June was these 3 basic questions. How much are we doing? How well do we do it? And is anyone better off? And those continue to be the framework for today, and really this discussion of looking at what should be measured. We did a lot of things around alignment. We had lots of flip charts up and people talking, so we appreciate that, and your interaction matters. We take that back and use that over and over. We also asked to have a conversation about what's least meaningful. How do we get stuff off this list? How do we weed things down and get to the most essential ingredients? So that leads us to where we are today. Today is in response to the things that folks said they wanted. A little bit more time to talk about this framework called results-based accountability. It's certainly valuable to us as a language. We think it's a great way to organize what we measure. And we also appreciate it because it connects us back to the top. This idea of accountability for results, that we share in this journey and we want the same kind of results. So how do we all use the same language and the same framework? So we'll do some time on that, but I want to make sure you guys are clear. Again, the PowerPoint slides will be available, and if you have any questions about what we've done getting to this, we're around. One of the things that you'll have later on in today are those child wellbeing scorecards that we've been working on for months with your help, and we'll have those out and also on the online tool for you later on today.